Welcome back. The Fed still hasn't budged on interest rates, but our next guest says higher for longer is great news for tax-exempt investments. Capital Group's Courtney Wolf is here for today's edition of Muni Money. Courtney, but I don't know, they could cut. I mean, let's put it this way. Whether the Fed cuts 1, 2, or 3 times, can investors do well in munis this year?
That's a great question, Kelly. I think they can. So the positive news about the Fed on hold is we continue to have pretty interesting yields in the tax-exempt space. If you think about the yield on a broad-based municipal bond high-grade index, it's about 3.7%. If you tax adjust that for those in the highest income tax bracket, you can get taxable equivalent yields of north of 6%. I think that's awfully compelling. So whether the Fed cuts this year or it's pushed out a little bit, I think it's positive for our market. And I think the big thing here is that we know the Fed has a high bar to hike. And so I don't know when their next move is likely to be, but I would say we're more likely to cut than hike from here. I'm
curious why there's been some pressure on the senior living segment lately, which is said to be one of the safest parts of the market.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would caveat it, just sort of the comments on the sector by saying there's a lot of different issuers within that sector. So the muni market is known for having tremendous issuer diversity. I would say that's also prominent in the senior living sector. But there's a couple of factors I think that are sort of pressuring that sector broadly speaking. Costs have gone up a lot in that part of the market. So the cost to provide services has increased, and so you're seeing a little bit of margin pressure. Again, issuer dependent, but sort of sector wide.
No, it's interesting. It mirrors what's going on more broadly, where things get so expensive at some point people blanch. What about with higher ed? Is that a similar story, or is it more of a population issue?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, I would say there's lots and lots of different issuers within the higher ed sector, but I think that's right. We're also hearing a little bit more challenging stories in the higher ed space, and that often has to do with demand. So demographics are shifting across the U.S., and some of the smaller higher ed institutions are facing a bit more pressure. But again, I would say it's very issuer dependent.
Where do you see the most exciting opportunity right now?
Yeah, this may not sound all that exciting, but I think it's pretty interesting value in AAA housing paper. So you can buy bonds around a 4% tax exempt yield, which again, if you think about the benefit of tax exemption, that gets you over to 6.5% taxable equivalent yield for AAA 5-year duration bonds that can do well in all sorts of environments. So I think that's a pretty interesting opportunity in today's market.
All right, Courtney, thanks so much for your time. Send people hunting them down. We appreciate it today.
Pleasure to be with you.
With Capital Group. Let's get to Tyler Matheson now for the CNBC News Update. Tyler?
Kelly, thank you very much. An Illinois man accused of killing 7 and injuring dozens more at a 2022 Independence Day parade in suburban Chicago rejected a deal to plead guilty to 7 murder charges today. It was a stunning reversal in the courtroom just days before the 2nd anniversary of the attack. Prosecutors said the shooter admitted to the attack, firing from a rooftop along the parade route. Former GOP Congressman Adam Kinzinger endorsed President Biden ahead of Thursday's debate. The ex-Illinois lawmaker said Trump was a threat to every American value. Frequent critic of the former president, Kinzinger was one of 2 Republicans who joined the January 6th committee along with Liz Cheney. He also voted to impeach Trump for inciting the insurrection. And U.S. national soccer team veteran Alex Morgan was left off the roster for this summer's Olympics in Paris. In today's announcement, the 3-time Olympian was the most notable absence, having been named to the squad for several friendlies against South Korea earlier this month. It is the youngest roster, by the way, for the U.S. since 2008. Kelly, back to you. Passing of the torch from Alex Morgan on.
Indeed. Tyler, thank you very much. I'll see you next hour. Coming up, our next guest isn't buying tech for 2 reasons, including that he still sees a rate hike on the table. He'll tell us what he's buying instead. And as we head to break, check out Amazon hitting new all-time highs today, enough to join the $2 trillion club. Doesn't have quite the ring it used to. We're back after this.
Muni Money is sponsored by BAM. Help build America's future with BAM-insured Muni bonds.
America is strong. And today's investments in essential American infrastructure make it even stronger. Build America Mutual only insures U.S. municipal bonds, providing an added layer of security to improve any portfolio with guaranteed income that helps investors reach their goals. Be part of building America. Build a better portfolio. Invest in BAM insured bonds.